Wonder why the session clock's not going. Hmm. That's interesting. But it says we're live. Greetings, chess players. My name is Chris Torres. This is my nephew Alton, and we are here with Daily Chess Musings. And I have a special. Today's Black Friday. Normally, I do a special lesson for my students on what I call Black and White Friday. And so today we're going to be looking at some fantastic games, positions, some of my favorite. And you might be seeing some photos next to Alton and I. I was just last week, in fact, attending, there I am, attending the Meltwater Champions Chess Tour in San Francisco, because I live near San Francisco. And I am the editor for the Cal Chess Journal, as well as being, a very popular chess coach in Northern California. And so, as the editor, I was there covering things. As a chess coach, I was introducing my students to some of the people you're seeing on the side of the screen. We had, in attendance, we had Prague. So that was very exciting. First time I've ever met Prague. Tanya Sachev, the international master and chess journalist, I'm sure you all know. There she is. Magnus Carlsen was in attendance. That's James Eade. You guys know him if you're friends of this channel. He was my buddy going. There's Prague. He's coming up. Wesley So was there. But let me tell you a little bit about the Meltwater. Oh, and Anish Giri. You probably see a photo of me and Anish. But let me tell you a little bit about the Champions Chess Tour. It was the finals in San Francisco, and there were 8 players. So it's a round robin with 8 players. So how many matches do they play then, Alton, if there's 8 players? And it's a round robin. Throwing you on the spot.
Maybe 4 or 6.
7. You're
7.
close. Yeah, 7. Because you play everybody once, but you don't play yourself, right, Alton?
Yeah.
That would be kind of silly. You could, that's not going to help determine the tournament. I mean, it's good practice to play yourself, but not in the tournament. So they played 7 rounds, and the time control was 15 minutes with a 10-second increment, which is the exact time control that I used to use at chess camp. We would do this a lot. I really like 15 and 10 because it is fast, but that 10-second increment, if you get yourself a good position, that 10-second increment, you can relax and play a good endgame on the increment if you have a winning endgame. So the increment is very useful to strong players, and the otherwise the 15 minutes on the clock means the action is fairly fast paced. Now the Champions Chess Tour, they don't actually use chessboards, so chess is more like an e-sport. So these guys were sitting in these really cool chairs. I got a chance to try one of them. I don't even know how much they cost, but they're much nicer than the chairs I have in my office. And they are using, gaming computers, and all their moves are inputted using a mouse. So no actual handling of the pieces. It is an e-sport. Let me show you real fast on my browser window right now. Oh, let me fix. Nope, that didn't do it. Oh, maybe I won't show you my browser window. Maybe I won't. That's okay. Is my Daily Chess Musings site. So instead of that, we'll just go with this one because this one's working. And hang on one second. Let me get to my first window. And let me give you. I was gonna bring it up on my browser. What I collected a few positions that were of good educational value for my students while we were there, and there was like what 150 something games. I don't know, a lot of chess, right? So I'm going to show you a few of my favorites, and you can find the rest of the games on chess.com in their events. You can go and look at the rest of the games. But let me start. I was going to show you, from my blog, dailychessmusings.com. I'm looking at the blog right now. And number 7, I call, and let me make sure my windows look good here. And they do. Number 7, I titled on here, Tactics, Tactics, Tactics. So number 7 was Arjun Aragasi versus Pragnananda. So we've got an all India chess match occurring, and this was in round 7. And Prague has just played. He just played his queen out to a4, and this misses a tactic. It misses a tactic. So I'm wondering if anybody who's watching right now, let's see how many we've got in the house. I'm wondering if anybody who's watching sees the tactic that Prague missed. Let us see. Also, there'll be, more on chess.com. You're more than likely to type in the Twitch chat and let us know. Alton, since I don't see anybody chatting, what was I always telling you guys at chess camp to look at first? Checks, captures, and threats, right?
Yeah.
So when we look at a position like this, like I said, Prague just he brought his queen out, and the question is, do we have a useful check? A useful check. And the answer is, of course, yes. Do you see a good check, Alton? For white.
For white?
Mm-hmm. A good check for white. We got a few different check possibilities, right? Do you see one?
I'm looking.
Okay. How can we check the black king? Do we have a good check? Well, we got this, right? Queen h8. That would be a check. But of course the king would take. Then we would have another check, right? So let me just queen h8, king takes, and then we have another check, but then king takes, right? And then things are a little messy. In fact, we're down 12 points in material for just one pawn, and we don't have our queen and bishop anymore. Queen to h7 check is actually worse, right? Because then after king takes, you don't even have a second follow-up check. So both of those checks aren't so hot, right? Let's see what Arjun Aragasi played. He played check with the knight. Now, what's the first thing you notice about this check, Alton?
Okay, so the knight is checking the king, and you got a queen right behind the knight.
Yes. And what else do you notice?
The bishop is still right there.
The bishop's still right there. That's important, right? The king's in check. So what are the king's options? What is black's options? Let's just put it that way. They could either take the knight, right?
Yeah.
Or they can move their king. But if they move their king, they're stepping into the file with the queen, which is, very dangerous, right? All right. So I think most people would take the knight, perhaps, right? But in fact, if you do that, then white can just take here, and they're threatening checkmate, right?
Yeah.
So that's not so hot at all. In fact, I mean, if you're black, you could try and sack some material just to stay alive a few moves longer. Um, you could try bishop b4, but then pawn to c3 blocks, right? And then that's not stopping the queen from going in front of the king. Um, so that, first of all, you're just going to get checkmated. Now, alternatively, instead of taking the knight, you could try to step out of the check, and this gets a little prettier. The biggest weapon you can use in chess is a double check. It's the most forcing kind of combination, because there is no answer other than moving your king. You can't capture a double check, and you can't block a double check. So the double check looks like this. So you got discovered check with the queen and a direct check with the knight. That's trouble. It means the black king has to go to g8, right? It's the only move. And then you have yet another check, right? You can bring your knight back out. Now again, if the pawn were to take the knight, then queen just takes, and that's terrible. Terrible, right? I mean, what are they going to do to... actually, that's terrible for white. What am I saying? What am I saying? Um, yeah, queen. Yeah, I clicked the wrong thing. Queen takes g6, and that is checkmate. And now, if the knight comes back and says check again, so again, let me get this straight for you guys. Boom, checkmate. And then if the knight comes back, if they don't want to get checkmated, then they've got to do what? They got to step into this H file again, right? And that's particularly unhealthy for the black king to be in that file. And then here, I mean, numerous things would win for white, but perhaps knight f5, another discovered check. King has to go to g8, and then you could play queen takes g6, and you're threatening checkmate right here on g7 multiple ways. Again, maybe the only hope for black is to just throw in some useless checks to try and stay alive longer, because even if rook takes the even if rook takes the bishop, well then queen just takes g7, checkmate, right? Because you got the knight also threatening. So they could come out here and say check, and then you could block, and then they could take again and say check, right? Useless checks just to elongate the game. But of course, black just resigned there. Prague after the beautiful. Let me get back to the beautiful move here. The beautiful knight h6, and that's the type of tactic. Honestly, I would expect scholastic chess players to spot as well. Tactics win chess games. We're always saying this. All right, so that was a good opener. Let's go to position number 2. Again, these are my kind of memorable positions from this tournament, and this is Li Quang Liam, versus Pragnananda, or Prague, as most people say, Li Quang Li is the he's the I'm a huge fan of his, and I apologize for mispronouncing his name. I'm a huge fan, and he is also the head coach at Webster University now, which is very strong college chess program. Of course, a grandmaster, as is everybody who is playing in this event. And Prague is black. Now, let us go back one move. Liam plays rook e2. And this move, you know, seems pretty good. You know, it's putting a rook in the same file as your king, prevents any sort of checks, and of course this pawn and bishop, especially this pawn, is a little bit dangerous to you. Pieces are nicely coordinated. The rooks and the queen are coordinated, but Prague does something really cool here, and I really like the way he maneuvers. Now, when we look at this pawn and bishop, it looks good right now because they're self-supporting each other, right? The pawn's defending the bishop's defending the pawn. That looks good. And the pawn's, it's a passed pawn just a couple moves away from glory. However, because they are self-supporting, and this is a dangerous pawn, it also means that Prague's bishop can't join in the attack very well, right? Can't join in the attack. And so Prague does something really cool here. I certainly would have missed this. As, you know, a lot of players would. This is why these guys are super grandmasters. And Prague is, you know, just a 17-year-old chess genius of the highest order. So what Prague does, he's going to, you know, I would have been trying to figure out, how am I going to get this pawn here? That's what I would have been thinking. Prague, he thinks something else. Watch what he does. He swings his bishop around to a diagonal where it can attack. Now that's interesting. All right, so Liam plays queen e3. And again, everything's nicely coordinated. And now he's threatening this c-pawn. Very important, right? That is, you know, a baby queen. But Prague gets his bishop back here. Now this attacks the rook on f4. So he moved his bishop here to swing it around back here. A little bit of nice chessboard geometry moving here. Is threatening the rook on f4 and then the pawn behind it. Well, the pawn is defended by the king. The rook needs to move. Liam chooses to super stack his, you know, form a super battery. Plays rook e4. Yeah, I mean, he could have also, you know, put his rook maybe on c4 or d4, I suppose. But, you know, having things kind of super stacked makes good sense. Everything's defended. Everything is coordinated. But this is where Prague moved his rook over. Now this is really beautiful. So the rook and the bishop are conspiring against that pawn on h2. Well, Liam can take the dangerous pawn now on c3. So that's gone. And I think most everybody, you know, at the tournament perhaps was expecting, you know, this rook takes h2 thing. But what Prague ends up doing is playing queen f5. And this is really pretty because if this queen leaves the third rank, if white's queen leaves c3, then this is going to come down here. Very, very dangerous. And remember, these two, the bishop and the rook, are still conspiring on h2. Furthermore, and you know, maybe we can just waste a move for white, just so you kind of see. Let's just say white, you know, let's just make it black's move again, right? Well, then you have this kind of pattern of rook h2, and the king has to go back to the first rank now because the bishop's controlling g3 and the queen's controlling f3. So it has to go down here. And then you have rook h1. And then if king takes h1, then you have queen f1. and that's checkmate. So that, I mean, obviously white's not going to waste a move, but just showing you what this queen f5, the reasoning behind that. So Liam plays queen c4, and again, what did I say? If the queen leaves the third rank, that opens up queen f3 check, and then king g1, and really, Prague plays bishop c5. Lots of lines lead to wins here. Maybe I think I remember. Did he miss something? Was rook h2 actually a cleaner path to victory? Because again, this pattern, right? If king g2, then queen f1 checkmate, or if king takes h1. Oops, let me go back one step. Or if king takes h1, then queen f1 checkmate. Yeah, that would have been cleaner. But the important thing is not being necessarily 100% precise in your. I mean, everybody would like to be, right? The important thing is coming away with the victory. And the impressive part here was this re-maneuvering, changing of the diagonals of the bishop. This is just pretty. It's just beautiful. Comes back around and in. All right, so that's a cool one. I really like that one a lot. Let's see what I have next here. We've got, looks like we got Prague and Wesley So. Let me look at my blog and see what I have, if anything, in my notes about this. Prague and Wesley So. So that, okay. Aha. Okay. Yes. Punishing a crime is what I wrote. So what do you think? The best move is for white, for Prague in this case. If you want to answer in chat, go right ahead. I see some people are chatting. If you want to answer in chat, go right ahead. But what might you play here? Is white, Elton?
As white?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe your queen next to his queen, and then your king make sure they can't just attack.
Maybe your queen next to his queen. Well, we can't do that because the pawn is guarding g3. Yeah, this pawn is doubly dangerous because not only is it a passed pawn, but it's guarding g3. Otherwise, certainly they would. I think knight takes looks pretty good because you're taking this knight off c3, winning a pawn, and moving it within checking distance of the black king. Right? So that looks pretty good to me. In fact, let's just take a quick look. I mean, yeah, black could take back, right? And then you got some checks you can play. Queen d8 check, king h7, and then. Yeah, this seems reasonable to me. A reasonable approach for white. However, Prague makes a slight miscalculation here. And what does he do? He moves his knight back to help defend this g3 square more, and maybe come over and harass the queen. Help guard against this pass pawn, right? He's moving his knight in the direction of the threat rather than in the direction of his opponent's king. So Wesley So moves his knight in the right direction. He brings his knight in closer. And now the knight is G3 is a real hot spot on this board right now, right? Three defenders for white, three attackers for black. Um, Prague attacks the queen. Okay, and so this queen's got to move. And where do you think it should go, Alton? Where would you go with the queen?
Queen.
We really don't want to bug out, do we?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we want to.
No, we can't move far
Yeah,
away.
and
That's ruin everything.
yeah, and we can't go here, so it kind of leaves one possibility: Queen H1, right? And then knight goes back to E2 again, you know, in the vicinity and helping to solidify G3. But this is where Wesley So does something quite interesting. He goes ahead and plays knight G3 anyways, and that is you know, a surprising move. I really like this. This was a very memorable position as I was watching this event unfold live, and the reason is, yeah, I mean, white can take on G3, and then if HX G3, queen takes G3, right? And white's fine. White's fine. But HX G3 isn't forced. It isn't forced. So again, what do we look at first? Checks, captures, and threats, right? Does black have a check other than this HX G3 check capture? Do they have another check? Where can this queen go?
They can take that pawn.
It could, yeah. Queen H2, thank you. Yeah, first time chatter. Queen H2 is correct. So I think what Prague was hoping, obviously, is a pawn takes, but Queen H2 is a very powerful move, very powerful move. Because let's not forget that the queens are now on the same diagonal on the opposite side of this knight, but the king's in check. So king goes to E1, and now pawn takes. And now this pawn is just 2 squares away from becoming a second queen on the board. Prague plays king D1. And should he move this pawn forward right now, Alton?
No.
No, right? That would be a huge mistake, right? It's pinned to the queen. So what does he do? Queen H1 check. King moves up, and then G2. So let's watch this one again. This one was real nice. So again, the crime and punishment. Knight takes would have been all right. Would have been all right. And yeah, you seem to be okay. I mean, you have access to this checking square here and this checking square here. You know, as white. But he moved his knight. He, being Prague, moved his knight toward the big threat, and Wesley So brings his knight in closer to the opponent's king. Knight G1 threatens the queen. Queen H1, pretty forced. Knight E2, and then here's the surprising move. Again, white has G3 guarded 3 times, right? So it seems like, yeah, black's only attacking it twice. They're guarding it 3 times. It doesn't seem like a good move at first glance when you run the math, but you always got to analyze the checks. Let me get rid of these arrows because I was just showing Why aren't these arrows disappearing? There goes one. There goes the other. Um, I was just showing the pin on top of everything else. Yeah, check. King's got to move back. Then you take, and then of course you need to step out of the pin. And then so you say check, and then boom. All right. So that was really nice. Very nicely done by Wesley So, whom I got to meet as well. And let me take a break for a moment. I'm going to go back to this screen, show you some more pictures from the tournament. I was there, and Alton, scoot in a little bit so everybody can see you good. There you go. Alton, what grade you in now?
I'm in 7th.
7th grade. And I was just at Thanksgiving with Alton last night. And I said, what do you want to talk about? He said, I don't know, chess. He used to go to chess camp with me all the time. My famous Fremont summer chess camp that I ran many, many times. And Alton, you're in the chess club?
Yeah.
At your school, and that's been going. You said for a few weeks now, huh?
Yeah, it's been going for a few weeks. It's a strategy game club.
Yeah. So a few weeks, and it's fantastic. I think every school should have a chess club. I mean, there are some people that think chess should be mandatory, and that. Certainly, there are a lot of benefits to learning chess, which is why I would bring you to a chess club. And all your brothers and sisters too. Certainly as an elective or as a chess club after school, right?
Yeah.
Every school should have a chess club, I think. It's a lot of fun. Chess connects people. It's a fun thing. I mean, some of the students in your chess club might have seen their grandparents over Thanksgiving and ended up playing chess with their grandparents and surprised their grandparents, right?
Yeah.
That didn't even know that they knew how to play chess. It's cross generational. I meet all kinds of people through the game of chess. So that's wonderful. And let me get back to, let's see what we got next. Okay, so we were just looking at Prague and Wesley So. Let me see. Let me peek. Oh, here's a Magnus Carlsen one. This one looks exciting. I remember this. I believe this was it's Magnus Carlsen and Arjun Erigaisi. And let's see. Going. I'm looking at my blog, dailychessmusings.com, and this one's costly mistakes in the endgame. Now this kind of endgame is fun, and the thing I gotta say about the format, the 15 minutes with a 10-second increment, the Meltwater Championship format, and the reason it's an esport is the players played out their end games instead of doing like what you see a lot of times in classical time control tournaments, very long games. The grandmasters played it out, and so we got to see a lot of end games played until there was a definite result. So again, you can find those games on chess.com from the Meltwater Championship Finals, and you can look through all the other games yourself, and you'll see a lot. You'll learn a lot about endgames because the players played them out. There weren't very many quick draws. It was a lot of fighting chess. So what we've got first of all is White's pawn. Erigaisi's is 1, 2, 3, 4 squares away from queening, but would queen on with a check right now, and Black's pawn, Magnus Carlsen's pawn, is a little bit closer, but would not queen with check. So let's see what happens. So Magnus Carlsen played king a6, and he's saying, don't scoot this pawn forward, I'll take it, right? And let me make sure that I have the, yeah, Magnus Carlsen looks like he's black, all right. Just making sure. And then Aragasi moves his king to c6 to give support to the pawn to scoot it forward, so it can hold the hand of the little pawn, crossing the street. And so Carlsen now plays d3. His pawn is 2 squares away, just 2 squares away from becoming a queen. And then Aragasi's pawn scoots forward with check. So he takes the initiative. And Magnus Carlsen should not scoot back because there would be another check. And you don't want to be attached to the square when that pawn queens, because you won't get the initiative. So king a5, b6, so it's a pawn race. We see this a lot in scholastic chess. d2, b7. And this is so exciting to see this at the highest level. d1 promotes to a queen. Magnus gets his queen one step ahead of time. And then b8. Aragasi also gets his queen. And now Magnus doesn't want to get checkmated, right? Right? No in-your-face mate here. So, yep. So he scoots his king down, and Aragasi, Arjun Aragasi, he wants to control the initiative. So he says check. That's a good first step. Magnus moves his king out of check, and this is where mistakes were made. Arjun probably should continue with the checks. Queen a5, try and keep checking, right? But instead, he says, let's trade queens. Now, if Magnus were to take, then this pawn would take back. And we have another pawn race, but white looks like they would get there first. So he wants to trade queens and win a pawn race. But that was a big mistake. Do you see why, Alton? So again, if queen takes, this looks good for white, right?
Yeah.
But what else can this queen do instead of trade?
It could also check the king.
It could. It could also check the king, and it could also do what?
It could take a pawn.
It could take a pawn. Yeah. He misses. He gives Magnus a pawn in the endgame. So this is, not a. But I mean, you know what? Playing Magnus is intense. Let me tell you. I've had this experience myself. When you sit across the board from Magnus Carlsen, it's intense. You're anxious. Arjun misses that, but he gets to play a check, and now we get to see Magnus use some really good technique in a queen king versus queen king endgame. These things can end up a draw very easy, a draw by repetition or perpetual check. These things can easily be a draw. Most of the time they are. But Magnus steps out of check, but he does it by moving closer to his opponent's queen. Interesting choice, huh? So queen goes to d2. There's another check. Magnus steps out of check. And then queen d3. Well, he's got the opportunity now to come to the c file. So he's moving closer, right? The king's moving closer to the action. And in a moment, we're going to see something neat. All right, so queen f1. And queen f1, check. And again, Magnus comes to d2. And now white has some, taking this pawn is good. Taking a pawn is good, but it doesn't keep the initiative, right? You lose the initiative. But, the question is, can white keep the initiative by checking this king? Well, if he goes up and says check like this, Magnus can interpose with his own queen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so this is kind of challenging, to say the least. So let's look. This check doesn't work. We just talked. Obviously, checks next to the king aren't going to work, right? And this check's not going to work because the queen's controlling g2. So it seems like, maybe the best thing he can do is take the pawn. But now Magnus isn't being forced to do anything. He can do whatever he wants. And he gets to, what do you think he's going to do?
Get a pawn.
Take the pawn with check. Kapowie zowie. Now this is not looking so good. So king goes to d6, and Magnus now plays queen to b4 check. King goes to d7. You got to be careful here. You got to be careful. Taking like this wouldn't be so hot, right? Because you got like queen c3, right?
Yeah.
And then the queen's trade, and this pawn can go off and running. So Arjun goes king d7, then queen to f4. Well, you can't trade queens, right? I mean, you're going to lose if you trade queens. So he gets his queen out of the way, and then, but that's not a check. And he doesn't have a good check, by the way. It looks like he could do this, right? It looks like he could go there and say check, but there's a problem with it that I should address here, and that is Magnus can interpose with his own queen. Then this is now pinning the queen to the king. So after queen takes, pawn takes, of course, and black wins easily. So Arjun moves his queen way over there to a6, and that's not a check. So it's time to start moving the pawns forward. And right here, Arjun plays king e6. I mean, there's some other things he could have done, perhaps. But he plays king e6, and then Magnus scoots a pawn forward again, and then queen a2, king e1, and this is where Arjun resigns, because I mean, if queen goes to b2, then the king can come here, and then if queen goes to c2, then the pawn can come here, right? And now this pawn's one step away, right? And yeah, you could like try and throw in a check, but I don't know. I mean, you could just like go queen e3, right? And here we have again blocking with a tactic on your opponent's king. So this one I really liked, and the reason I like this is because it's very approachable endgame for a lot of my younger students. Everything makes sense. Magnus moves forward to stop white's pawn from scooting forward right away, and then he starts his pawn. Arjun responds, Magnus, Arjun, Magnus gets a queen, Arjun gets a queen, steps out of the checkmate threat, still with the check. And right here, this is where Arjun goes wrong. He sets up this trade of queens, but misses the pawn right there. Again, you got to maintain the check. You gotta keep checking and escape. If you can escape with a draw against Magnus, you've done something. He could have tried queen a5. I guess king b2 is probably best, and then queen b4, and then it looks like it's going to be just one of these perpetual check or repeated position kind of things. Yeah, lesson learned. All right, let's go ahead to our next position. That was a nice endgame. Double promotion of queens. Let's see. This one is, again, Arjun and Shakrayur Mamandirov. Shakrayur I have met. He played a lot of chess in the San Francisco Bay Area. So he was not on this trip, but I've met him in the past. So 4 of the players were in town. And those were Wesley So, Anish Giri, Magnus Carlsen in Prague. And the remaining players were connected via the internet because they were all playing on their computers anyways. All right, sip a little bit more coffee. Let me see what I wrote on dailychessmusings.com. I will post this video as well. I put all these positions on dailychessmusings.com in the blog section. All right, masterful maneuvering, costly mistakes in the endgame. Oh, I love this. Arjun gets a beautiful move here. All right, so what's just happened? Black plays rook c to e2, and everything black has is guarding this e5 square, right? He's got 2 rooks guarding e5 and the bishop, right? Lot of stuff guarding e5. But Arjun spots something. Checks, captures, threats. White has a mate in 3. Anybody see it? I see some people chatting. And yeah, Pawn Street, I'd be happy to follow you later. And I saw Lord Rumble in the Jungle. Anybody want to chime in? Anybody have a thought who's watching us right now? Got 269 viewers currently, at least just on my Twitch. More on chess.com as we're on Chess TV right now. Anybody want to take a shot at this mate in 3? I'll give you a hint. It starts with a check. What sort of checks do you see, Alton?
They can move the queen into F into the pawn.
Yeah, the bishop is
the
still
bishop,
guarding.
but-
Yeah. So that's not so hot. Doesn't quite work. The rook can go to down here, but I mean that's guarded 3 times. King, queen, and rook, right? So Arjun plays bishop e5 anyways. Remember how I said everything's guarding e5? Bishop, rook, rook. Arjun goes ahead and plays it anyways. What are black's options here to get out of check? He can't move his king over, right? Because the rook is controlling.
He could take with the bishop. He could take with either one of his rooks.
Yes, he could. You know, we can play through some of the options. Okay, so let's say bishop takes. Now what happens? The bishop is interfering the rooks being unified on that file, right? They are no longer coordinated for the moment. So what can white do?
They could try and take one of the rooks.
Yeah, boom, right? And then the only thing black could do is this, and then checkmate. All right, so bishop e5 check, and now, okay, so if you take with the bishop, the rooks aren't coordinated anymore. So certainly this rook could take, right?
Yeah, and then still be coordinated.
But then, is the bishop still guarding f6, Alton?
No.
No.
So you could just go.
Yeah, I know. Isn't this pretty? I really like this one. I really like this one. This, yeah. Okay. And likewise with this one, right?
Yes.
Same idea. Yeah, same. The rook is blocking the bishop's control of f6. And then, is there anything else that we're missing here that they could do? I guess they could play pawn f6, right?
Yeah.
But that's not very good.
That's not going to be much. It's not going to change.
Well, I mean, then your bishop is doing the role of what their bishop was in that first scenario. It's blocking the rooks from being coordinated, and then block, and then checkmate. So this one is just beautiful because when you put the bishop here, either this rook is not defended or f6 is not controlled, right? And either way, you're toast, right?
Yeah.
So Arjun played. This is just a really pretty mate in 3, really pretty. I'm going to show this to all my students. This coming week, when a bunch of my students are going to be back in action after the Thanksgiving week, and I'll put that on my demonstration board. All right, we got 2 more positions, and I got about 10 more minutes, so we'll go here. Let me see what we got. We got Wesley So in Mamadirov this time, and let me look at my blog, see if anything I wrote on this. Oh, this is the beautiful combination to win by Wesley So. Okay. So Black just played, Mamadirov just played knight f7, and Wesley So can't take this pawn because the rook's defending it, right?
Yeah.
So he threatens the rook. Now watch this, Alton. I love this. Yeah, I'm finishing with the best ones, my absolute favorite. So the bishop's threatening the rook. The rook's got to bug out, which means the king gets to take, right? So the rook leaves, and then the king does get to take. But Chakrayer sees check, right? So the knight's checking the king, and the rook's defending the knight. So when Wesley's king moves out of check, it's not really threatening to capture the knight. But when it moves out, what's it doing? Checking. So let's go back and look at this geometry at work here. All right. So the bishop comes, removes the guard, king takes, check. But remember this, right? The rook's in the same file as the king. Yeah. Check. Chakrayer's king steps out of check. Now, what's defending this knight? Why can't the king take the knight?
The rook.
The rook. So watch what Wesley does. Attacks the rook, removes the guard again, right? Okay, so you got a problem here. Your rook, which is defending the knight, is under attack, right? It can't go here. Pawn would take, right? This is a real problem. Well, he thinks he has a solution, which is return and say check. So the knight moves to safety, right? And is checking the king. So if rook takes knight, well, I shouldn't give it away. But yeah, the king's in check. I guess I just did give it away. Silly Chris, what are you doing? All right, so yeah, rook takes, and Mamadirov resigns here. Why does he resign? Because if king takes, then you lose your rook.
And you lost all your power pieces.
Yeah. And white still has a bishop and an extra pawn, right? So this was really, really pretty. I like the geometry at play here. So the rook is defending the pawn, threaten the rook, remove the guard, take the pawn, you get checked. But when you step out of check, you check your opponent's king. It's a discovered check when you step out. King moves back, attack the guard again, check, throw your, do an exchange sack, because you'll pick up the rook at the end. All right, now I saved the best for last. The absolute best for last. Jan-Krzysztof Duda played perhaps his immortal game. This may be the best game I've ever seen him play. It is the best game I've ever seen him play. He played it at a fast time control, 15 minutes with a 10-second increment, against the ever the legendary Anish Giri. I mean, this guy is very very strong chess player. All right. So what does Jan-Krzysztof Duda do here? Well, first of all, Anish Giri challenges him for the C file, and Duda plays a mate in 11. Yes, you heard that right. Mate in 11. All right. So first things first. It's a mate in 11. We've got 5 minutes or so left on the broadcast. So we're going to look at the checks. All right. So here's the first move. Check. Right. Sack or rook. King's going to take. And now we have a second check we can play, right, Elton?
And a queen.
Or you got to be careful with the queen, because if the queen says check, queen's going to take, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you play the pawn check first, right? And then, and you know what? We'll use all the rest of the time in the broadcast to kind of go through some of the other possibilities. But f6 check. King goes to h6, and now you got knight g4 check, right? Here, what? King g5, king h5. Okay, so king g5, and now this is the insane move. This is the insane move. Let's get insane. Queen f5 check. Why is it insane? Well, this knight is guarding it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Knight takes. Rook takes. Check. Why? Because the bishop is guarding the rook. Yeah. King's got to move away. And now this is just beautiful. Rook e5. Now Anish Giri resigns here. Why does Anish Giri resign? The rook steps out of the way and delivers a discovered check, right? I mean, can't he just like come back? Nope, he can't go there. Nope, he can't go there. Can he go in front of the pawn? Well, then you got rook to e7 check. King has to go to g8. And then you got knight h6 check. King, the rook's controlling the 7th rank, so the king would have to go to h8. And then remember this bishop, Alton?
Yep.
It's guarding h7. And that's the mate in 11. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. And in order to pull this off, in order to play this mate in 11, you see that you get a few good checks, but you have to be willing to sack the queen. And like I said, I think this is Duda's immortal game. This reminds me of if you look at different, any of the greatest combinations to finish a game, this is right up there with them. Sack a rook to get a check, get another check, sack the queen. This is right up there with the best game finishing combinations I've ever seen in my life. And I was at the tournament watching as this unfolded. Absolutely amazing. Let me see if there was another variation I wanted to look at with you guys real fast. So f6. Yeah, right here. Let's see. There's king g5 or king h5. We looked at king g5. King h5 is similar again. Same kind of idea, right? I just want to make sure that everybody understands. And then if king were to take here, why you have h3. Pawn checkmate, right? And then if king backs up, again, you have rook e5 with the discovery. And then The only thing you can do to stay alive longer as black would be to like waste time, right? You could try and waste time. Otherwise, we're looking at the same very pretty finale here. Just absolutely gorgeous checkmate. Um, all right, let me get back to our regular screen here. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. These were my favorite moments from the Meltwater Champions Chess Tour Finals in San Francisco. I was in attendance. I will have a feature article in the next Cal Chess Journal, the winter issue of the Cal Chess Journal. I am the editor for the Cal Chess Journal. I'll have a feature on this with more total game analysis plus all the results and things. I think chess as an esport works. I think it's terribly exciting. I thoroughly enjoyed my time, and I hope we I hope next year the Champion Chess Tour comes back to San Francisco, and I hope you enjoyed this little recap of my personal highlights. And hey, thanks for joining me tonight, Alton. This was a lot of fun. We'll have you back on the big show in the near future. Before you go ahead and give me a subscription or a follow on Twitch. The Daily Chess Musings Club on chess.com is free to join. We have 2,000 plus members. So join that. We do fun things all the time. Go to dailychessmusings.com to check out all the great things we're up to in the community, plus thousands of chess lessons and positions. Go check it out. dailychessmusings.com. Find us on Twitter. Find us on Instagram. And again, join our free club on chess.com. By the way, there's Coach Tortoise. I am Coach Tortoise on chess.com. So you can send me a friend request. Coach Tortoise. CoachToise. Go ahead and send me a friend request on chess.com. I'm a sociable guy. I would enjoy having more friends join our club. We'll play chess. I'll do a live stream of some chess games shortly. I know it's been a little while since I've done that. And hey, everybody, it was a riot tonight. I enjoyed going through these games with you, and I will see you next time. So long, everybody. Bye.
Bye.